This video talks about the Spire difference and why a Business Vision user would upgrade to Spire. So there are three different reasons. There's the user experience, the features, and the technology upgrade. So within the user experience, the first thing we're going to look at is list views. Data is always presented in a grid format, so all records for that module can be seen at once. So columns can be moved and sorted in any order, which makes it easy to view, update, and analyze the data. So to look at list views, if we click on, for instance, the customer, we'll see that each of the customers is laid out in a list, and this list can now be sorted any way they need to, by city, by name, by customer number or country. Any column whatsoever is sortable. And that list can be searched on by simply clicking on the column, typing in the first few characters of what you're trying to find. Click on a different column, type in a few characters, and it finds it on the list. The columns can also be moved. So you want to move a column over to the left or right, you can do so. And if you scroll over, you can add more columns. So if I right-click on the top, I can turn on extra columns I haven't already got listed. I can turn off columns. And when I get the list the way I want it laid out, that can be then saved. So then from the list view, filters can be used to select data right on the screen and be saved for future reference, including the column layouts, sorting, and position of the columns. So now from the list view, a user can now set up a layout and a filter. So in this case, if I uncheck everything except for the email address, the contact, turn on the main contact. So now we have a list of just the code, the name, contact, and the email. So I move that over, and now I set a filter where the email address is not blank. So this is just my customers with an email address. And I can further add to those filters and say where their year-to-date gross profit is greater than 0. So this is all my customers where I've had a gross profit of more than 0 and have an email address. And now I can save this filter by going Save Preset and call it Email List over or email list with GP. And I give that to myself or to the company. And to give it to a company, I have to have the access and my users set up to be able to do that. I click OK. So now I've got this filter that I can recall. So if I go to customers now and I go back to here, I can recall that. So email list with GP. But I can also add it to my customer list here. So here's some I've got already, but I can add this new one to that by going Add Filter to Module List, Email List with GP, and now it's been added here. So I can go directly from my full customer list to my email list with GP. Some other examples of using this are in, say, for instance, in inventory. I can go needs ordering. So this is a filter where suggested is not 0, so it needs to be ordered. Or items not sold in 2 years. So make that a little bit wider. So this is 3 sets of filters where this year's unit sales is 0. Last year is 0, so I haven't sold any in 2 years. And I have an on-hand stock of more than 0, so I've got some in stock. Next is multiple windows. Modules can be opened in a new window so you can view multiple modules at the same time. Multiple screens of the same module can be opened as well. So the user can use multiple monitors and view different parts of the program at the same time. Okay, so if you go into a module like customers, and I double click on a customer, it opens up into a window. And I can move that aside. I can double click on another customer and open up that customer and maybe look at their accounts receivable or their sales history or something. And then I can move up a third one, or as many as I need, and I can switch between them by just switching from the window screen at the bottom. Or I can move this onto its own monitor. I'll simulate that by just shaking it. And I've got this customer on this monitor, And then if I need to, I can bring the main screen back up, and I can go into sales to a different module altogether and double click on a work order or a sales order, and I can see that in its own screen. And if I'm working on a large order for somebody, say it's got emailed into me, and I get a phone call from another customer that wants to place an order, I can simply go back to my sales module, add a new order, start on another order, and yet not have to save and close out of that other order because I've got it listed down the bottom here, and I can just pop it back open again. And again, I can simulate that onto its own monitor by just giving it a shake and move it onto its own monitor like this. And if you have multiple monitors, you can actually move each one of these onto its own monitor. So you could be working on, say, your point of sale module in one screen and your sales in another, or your customers or sales history. So to actually open up a whole module in its own screen, you just have to double click it. So a single click opens it up inside the program itself. A double click will pop that whole customer list out into its own screen, which you can then move over somewhere else. Same as sales, you can pop it into its own screen and move it over somewhere else. So I've got these two complete lists opened up in their own screens. And as many monitors I've got, I can just pop these onto their own monitors. Searching. Information can be easily found based on single and multiple word searches within each module. So you can throw at it more than one word, you can throw at or to it, so you can easily find information within the program. Okay, so to search, basically this box, as opposed to searching in the grid here, searching in the grid, it finds the first characters of each section as I type it, so from the left to the right. But this search box is a completely different type. This will actually search the whole database at once. So if I type in Toronto, it finds all my customers in Toronto, but I also see I've got one here in Seattle. But if I double click it, I'll see that I've got a city of Toronto in one of their ship tos. Okay, or if I type the word John afterwards as an additional word, I'll find two customers with the city of Toronto, in addition to that, the contact name of John. I can also use or in here. So if I take out the word John, I type in or Vancouver, then I'll get both Toronto or Vancouver. I can also use a minus. So if I can type in Toronto again, so I'll type in Toronto, and I see that I've got several customers with the word Inc. at the end of their name, including the second one down here. And if I now go minus INC, then it leaves out all the customers with the word Inc. in their name. So I can throw multiple types of searches. As well as the regular fields on the list here, it's searching inside things like notes as well. So if I type in WATCH, then it finds even this customer here that has a note within their system called watch, make sure no invoices over 60 days. So it's searching virtually everything inside the database. Complete module integration. All modules are completely integrated so you can view and maintain sales and purchase orders wherever they appear, such as customers, vendors, and inventory modules. So if you can find the information inside of a module, then you can also edit and manipulate that data as well. So in the lookup screens, you're looking up, say, a customer. You can also edit and add on the fly. So to show how this works, basically, if I'm inside of a sales order like this one, and I'm going to go look up on the customer, then I can see this customer here. But in addition to just seeing a customer, being able to select it from here, I can actually edit this right on the fly. So I open up that, I can see the customer, and if I need to fix their address, change it from street to road or something like that. Okay, and then fix anything else up in here. While I'm here, I can check their accounts receivable, see how much money they owe. And not only that, while I'm in here, I don't have to, if I want to work on the accounts receivable, take a payment from them. So I'm doing an invoice, but they give me a credit card right now to pay a payment. I can actually take a payment from here, click on payment, choose my credit card, Visa, and actually post that entry while I'm inside the sales order from here. So I didn't have to leave it. So everywhere within the program, anytime I can look something up, I can actually manipulate that data. So if I want to look up an inventory item here, and I can't find it, it's a new item, and I have the ability, I can go ahead and add a new inventory item on the fly, create the new part number, save all the information on it, and then go back to my sales order and select that item. So in addition to that, I'm inside this sales order for this customer. I can click on the sales order button to see any other orders and manipulate them and use them. I can look at their sales history. I can view it. I can drill down to it. I can credit them from there. I can copy them from there. I can go into their notes. I can go into their attachments. I can do that all from within here and without making you go elsewhere within the program. Reports and forms. All the reports and forms are found in the related module and can be printed or emailed without having to manually save them as a PDF. Different reports and forms can be printed simultaneously. So there's not a report module per se inside of Spire, but the reports exist within the modules themselves. So for instance, within the sales module, I have a printer button at the top here, and I can choose one or more of my reports I want to print at this time. So I can select off each of the reports, hit my print button or email button from here, and email merge those out to each of the customers. Or if I go to my inventory, go from here, I can hit my print button, and I get inventory reports from here. I can print them all at the same time if I need to. And from within my sales history screen, I come here, and I can hit print. Hit print, and I get all my reports from here. So you see that there's not a reports icon on the side here, but the reports are derived from within the program. So if you filter a set of customers here, and you say are on your, let's go back to the customer list, and I filter my Toronto customers by putting a filter in here, I can now go here and go print all, and it'll print all of these customers. Or if I want to, I can go selected. So I hold just the ones I want here, and I go print selected, and it'll pass those customers to my reports. Okay, the next section we're going to talk about is features. So the first feature is requisitions. This module integrates purchasing requirements derived from within sales orders, inventory, and production, which is a separate add-on for manufacturers. So basically you can gather together all your shortages, create requisitions for the items, and then create purchase orders based on those needs. The requisitions can be derived from a few different places within the program. So first of all, under inventory, we can say, for instance, set a filter where it needs ordering, and we've just set a filter here where suggested quantity is not 0. So suggested quantity basically is one of our columns that is calculated by taking back ordered plus committed plus reorder point, subtracting out what we've already got in stock, subtracting out what we've already got on order with our supplier, and then rounding it up to our minimum order quantity from our supplier. So this is everything here that has a suggested quantity that is not 0. So if I want to order everything from this list, I can select everything by going Alt-A, select all, hit the requisition button, and it brings up the requisition of all those items with all their quantities in here. I can still tweak these items, change the quantities. I can uncheck some items if I wish not to order them. I can move over to my vendor column and change the vendor to a different vendor, or if there's no vendor listed for that item, I can select a vendor. And then I can do one of two things. I hit process, which will then create all the purchase orders, or I can hit save, and that will then in turn save it into the requisition module here, which I can now use this to create all my purchase orders. If I want to hide processed, I can take all the ones I've already created POs for, and these are just a few that I still have to do. Okay, for here again, I can just select all of them if I wish and hit process, and it'll create the purchase orders for them. And then I can also create purchase orders from sales. So on all my orders that have back orders, for instance, I can just select them all. So if I create a filter here, add a filter, select where back ordered is true, so that there's a column on here now that have back orders on these orders. I can select all of them or some of them. I select all, hit the requisition button. That in turn takes all of those shortages, brings them into the requisition screen, creates a requisition for each one of those items on this list now. And again, I can do the same thing here where I can order them right away, or I can save them later for processing later. Okay, and the third way, of course, I can do that from inside of a single order as well. So if there's back orders here, I can then create the requisition just for these items from this sales order, and it'll then get stamped with that order number. So I'll just back order these. Okay, so I've got some back orders on there now. And then if I hit my requisition button, it brings up those shortages. Again, has the vendor on there already, so that I can process this right away. And if I do that, then the PO number will get stamped right inside my sales order, and my sales order gets stamped right inside my purchase order. And there's a full video on requisitions to show exactly how that whole process works. And then finally, inside production, for shortages there, I can also do the same thing here, create my requisitions for any of my shortages. So all these yellow lights or red lights that are showing up here, those are shortages. It'll hit the requisition from in here, and it'll create those again. You can either, again, save them for processing later, or process them immediately, and they'll get stamped inside the production order with the PO number. Price matrix. So customer pricing can be based on a wide range of variables such as specific, customer/inventory combinations, customer types, inventory product codes, or territories. This module supports multiple price points based on volume and date ranges, cost plus pricing, and cumulative price breaks. It also has the ability to push customer-specific pricing to the matrix from an order or a quote. So the price matrix allows you to set prices for a customer in many different ways. So if I go into price matrix, you see I've got several records here already where I've got set up for a customer. Let's add a new record. And I can put a warehouse on this. So I'll put the Vancouver warehouse, and I'll put a part number on here for this particular item. And if I set a customer for it, this one here, and I set a price, so there's our regular default price, and we'll just say this customer gets them for $65. That's a simple customer-specific price, and I can just save that if I wish. But I can also make this a discount instead, so I can go discount of 5%, and that saves it as a discount price instead. Or I can say that to get that 5% discount, they have to buy 4 of them first, and I can keep adding to that and say, to get 6, they get a 10% discount, and so on and so forth. Okay, I can also, if I remove those, make this a cost plus, so a margin. So if they buy a quantity of 4, they get a margin of 15%. So, and I can add multiple layers of quantities on that as well. Okay, so if we remove that, and we go back to price, then what we can do here, instead of using a customer, we can actually remove the customer, and we can put an item on special. So we can say from next Friday until the end of the month, we're going to put this on special at a discount of 15%. Okay, and I can again add quantities to that if I wish. So if I want to, instead of giving to all my customers, I can give it to a type of customer, a grouping of customers. So I can have several groupings that I can create here. One of them, say, called government, and then all my customers that I set up in the user group of government will get that discounted price. Okay, I can do the same thing for territory. So one of my territories that I've got set up. Okay, again, I can leave off the inventory item. So if I just don't save this one and I add a price, I can now put a grouping of products, so a product code on special. So I can say that all my equipment is going on special for the weekend. So from Friday until, so 27th until Sunday, we're going to put them at a discount of 20%. So all of that goes on special for that grouping of pricing, or that for that all those grouped items go on special for all customers. Again, I can do any combination of these and add to them in here. One other way of getting pricing to a customer, if I do a quote to my customer, so I create a quote to a customer, or even a sales order doesn't have to be a quote, but if I go inside of an order and I want to give them special pricing here, I can change my pricing on here. So this one here I can change to $2,000, and I can approve that because it's below my accepted margin. And I want to give this one here for $1,100, and I want to now save that price. I can go here to store all prices, create records. Even if I want to, I can create records for even the regular prices into the customers, and I can apply it to all warehouses. If I click OK there, then those two prices turn green because they now have been saved under this customer's specific pricing for those two items. There's a full video on Price Matrix that gives more details on this. Communications module can be used to create and follow up items that can be assigned to yourself or coworkers. Pop-up alerts can be created to display a message regarding a specific customer, a vendor, inventory item, or a sales order, or a quote, or a purchase order, wherever that information is relevant. And that information can now show up on a to-do list when the user logs into Spire and they've got alerts or notes assigned to them that have not yet been followed up and they're overdue or due. They will get a to-do list on login. So for communications, right after I log in, I'm getting a list of all of my communications that have been assigned to me and presented in a list here. So these are the ones that are either due today or overdue. So I got 4 of them. I get a brief description of what they're about. And I click OK. This happens on login. Click OK, and then click on the communications button, and I can see those communications that have been assigned to me. So within the module, you can assign communications from many different places within the program. So I got a couple here, some from accounts receivable. So I hit Open Related. It opens up the accounts receivable module for that particular customer. And then if I click on the one below it, which is the actual customer, I hit Open Related. It opens up the customer that was communication was assigned for right in here. If I go down to this one called Sales, and I click on it, and click Open Related, it opens up the actual communication for this quotation that has here the communication I added here. So I can add these communications throughout the program and assign them to users. So any module, so for instance, I go to inventory and I want to put a communication on here. So for instance, maybe I want to check the count on something because that's not quite correct. I can add a communication. I can put a subject of count, and this, and then put either a type on here if I wish. I can just say check count, and I can shows so many in stock. I can assign it to a user. So if I assign it to the user I logged in as, and I can put a due date on it. So I want them to do a count for this next Friday. And then I just simply hit save on it, and that will show up next Friday on their to-do list. Communications can also be used for other purposes. So if in this particular one here, actually we'll go into another one, we'll go add, and we'll type in disk and say this item is discontinued. And we can say that I want this to print, and I can say print on invoices, like that. And then this note will print underneath the item that was placed on the sales order. And I can choose to print these in different places. Okay. And then in addition to that, I can make this alert. So I can say alert on sales orders. And that way, once I save this note, and I'll just choose that part number, and I'll save and close this item. Okay, so here's a user-defined field that needs to be filled out. 22, save and close. And now I'll go back to my sales, and I'll add in a sales order for this item, put that item on the order, and it pops up that note that we put on there. So several purposes for the communications module, and there's a full video on all the places that communications is used within the program. Exporting. Data can be exported easily to Excel or CSV from all modules lists. All data on screen exports to the same column and row format as seen on the screen, including the sort order that the user has left them in. So the export feature is available on all lists. So if I'm in my customer list here, I can even choose one of my filtered selections. So I take my customer email list, I hit my export button. Actually, just before I do that, you'll see that if I sort by name, and I'll put email address second one in, and I hit my export button, and I'll just save it as list, replace one that's already there. It remembers what I last saved as. And I click open file. You'll see that it opens up Excel, and then the layout is identical to what I had underneath here. So it's sorted by name, and the column layout is identical. And in addition to that, it locks the top column, the top row, so I can scroll through that list. So again, that is available everywhere throughout the program on every single one of the lists. So if I want to export my sales or even my sales items, I can sort this whole list out, export this out to Excel or to a CSV file if you don't want to use Excel. Custom phases can be built to track activity inside of sales, purchase orders, and production orders. The user gets to design their own phase structure, and the orders can be moved individually or on as a group from phase to phase to phase. Phases can be set for sales orders, purchase orders, and production orders. So it works the same way in each module. So I'll show it here in the sales. So if I go inside of a sales order, you'll see the phase section over here. And if I go look up, you see I've got some that I've created, phase called new, and when new is moved out of its phase, it goes into a phase called needs approval. When needs approval is completed, it goes into approved, and when approved is completed, it goes into ready, and ready stops. So that's the end of the phase. Now I can add in any number of phases for different purposes that you can think of here that you need to put your sales orders, production orders, or purchase orders through. So I can also set a user so that when they create a brand new order, empty order, it starts them at a certain phase. So if I set the user as starting at a new phase, every single new order will have that phase automatically populated with that phase on there. Okay, so once an order has a phase on it, I just save and close this. I'm just going to recall a filter that I've got set called phases, and this has just a short list of the items, and I can actually add another filter to say where the phase is not equal to blank. But in this case, you'll see I've got some new phase. So if I open up that order, I can then highlight and this phase button here, and I click it, and it moves it to needs approval. So if I save and close this now, you see it's sitting, that order now is sitting at needs approval. I can also do it from this list. If I just click on the order I want to move to its new phase and click on the next phase button, it changes to needs approval as well. I can also do a group. So if I click on approved, needs approval, and new, these three, there are three different phases, and hit next, it moves all three of those into its next phase. So I got another additional one into ready, another one into approved, and so on. So once it's been moved into it, so let's take one that's been ready. So this is one that's gone through all its phases. Actually, let's take this new one here, and we'll move it all through its phases. So next phase, and that was order 102620 here. So I'll take it through, and we'll just take it to the next phase. So it's gone through 10620 is now been moved down to here. It's approved. Now I'll take it to its next phase, and now 620 is up here under ready, and I'll take it to its next phase, and that should be completed. And it's at ready, so 620 now. Open up that order and go into the phase section. You'll see that what happened was it shows every time that an order was moved from phase to phase. So it started off as new order at this time and date, went to needs approval at this time, then to approved, and then to ready. So you know how long each order was in each phase. And from here you can add some additional information to this. You can use add a carrier if it's being shipped between phases for, say, subcontract work or something like that, or RMAs that have come in via carrier. You can add a reference number here, and also you can put in notes. So if you want to add notes about this particular one. Okay, so that's all fully tracked and saves fully inside this particular order. And again, that happens in production, sales, and in purchases. Email templates, any form or report can be emailed using a template. Email templates are a set of user-defined standard messages that can be edited before they are sent. You can have multiple templates for each type of email that you're sending out. So for instance, for statements, you can have a regular statement and maybe a statement that's got a stronger warning if somebody's more than overdue. So email templates can be set up under Edit, Email Templates, and you can have any number of templates for different parts of the program. So I've got, for my statements here, I've got one that says, please find attached, very friendly, and I've got another one called Strong Warning that says, please find attached, and basically you're cut off if you don't pay up. So I've got those templates created. I can add them right in here. And then if I go to, say, to accounts receivable, in this case I can select all my customers. Let's just select a group of them. I can do a nice friendly template. Hit email, customer statements, hit the email button. It shows me a sampling of who it's going to go to. So it's going to get mail merged out to each one of those. But if I choose that top one and I choose a template called statement, very nice template goes out. And here I can send it either from myself or from my company email address, so from the accounting department if I choose here. But other than that, I can also go to my over 120s only, so sort by over 120. Looks like everybody's that way, but we'll just take a few of them. Hit the print button again, and this time around, I'm going to go email and choose statement strong warning, which basically tells the customer we're cut off at this point. So those templates can be derived anywhere you can print an email, you can create a template for them. Sales history edit. So once an invoice has been posted to sales history and to GL, the non-financial information can still be edited. For example, the salesperson, the territory, or the item description if there's spelling mistakes. So sales history edit, we simply go under sales history. And these are all invoices that have been posted, whether they got posted today or 2 years ago. Just have to basically double click on one of them. There's your historical invoice. If I hit the edit button, and this can only be accessed by those with the security setting, hit the edit button, and now I can go in and correct my salesperson. If I made my commission report and find that I get the wrong salesperson, I can change from one to the other. I can change my territory. I can correct my descriptions. I can correct my ship to. So all non-financial information, I can edit all that. And then I just save it, and now that can be reprinted with the new information on it so that commission reports and such can be corrected before you give them to the salesperson. Group Edit allows you to select a number of inventory items or a number of customers and change the same field on all of those records at the same time. So for instance, if you wanted to change the margin that you're selling an item for, you select all those items, change the margin, hit save, and every one of them will have a new sell price based on that. So Group Edit gives you the capability of editing many inventory items or many customers at the same time. So in the inventory list here, if I wanted to change all my vendors on a particular item from one to another, so if I highlight these items here and hit the Edit button, then I change vendors here to Empire Health, and maybe I want to change any of the other items as well. So I can change product code, the type, whether it's serialized or not. So all of these fields can be changed when doing a group edit. And then all you do is hit save, and all those items just got changed from one vendor to another. Another example where this is very useful in inventory, if I set a filter, or I've got a filter created here for items not sold in 2 years. So this says this year's units is 0, last year's units is 0, and on hand is not 0. So I've got stock on this product, and I haven't sold it in a couple of years. So if I highlight everything in here and hit the Edit button, and maybe I'll change the color of it to red and yellow, and then I want to set my margin to 15% over current cost. So by choosing the margin on those group of items. I hit save on them. Since I've saved this whole list here, then my sell prices got updated to 15% over margin, and all my items now show up in that color on the list. Same as in customers. If I go into customers and I want to move all of my customers from one salesperson to another, so if I find the salesperson field, turn it on, so there it is here, and if I switch all of these customers, so actually I take Mary here and then plus a few more customers, I move them to John. So edit, just highlight who I want to edit, hit the edit button, and switch to the salesperson, and choose John. And again, all these other things can be changed, so the color of the customer, the type, their tax structures, and warehouse they typically ship from. So all these fields can be changed on a group. So I click OK, and now all of those just got moved into the salesperson John. Items and customers and vendors can be changed to a specific foreground and background colors so they stand out on a list for whatever purpose the user needs them for. Sometimes to attract attention to an item or a customer or a vendor, you might want to set a color for them. So say in customers, you can set this particular customer and put their foreground and their background color and save it, and then they show up on the list and they show up on a sales order that way. You can do the same thing for vendor and inventory. So, and you can do that, of course, with group edits too. So you see some of these items are already colored, but if we use, say, this filter we've set called items not sold in 2 years, so we want these to stand out to make sure that if they show up on our list, we want to be able to make sure our salespeople know to sell them quickly, or if they show up on a sales order, to sell all we have left to that customer that's ordering them, or if they show up on a purchase order, then we know we shouldn't really be ordering them because they haven't sold any in 2 years. So if I select all of these items that have last year's sales 0, this year's sales 0, and on hand is not 0, so we have stock, we do a group edit, and we change their colors. Let's call it a bright pink and a bright yellow, and that show up pretty blazing on the list. So there they are in a bright colors. So if I look at my full inventory list, all the ones with that color, we know that they are the items that have not sold in a couple of years. And again, they'll show up on a sales order that way and a purchase order that way as well. Once inventory, customers, and vendors codes are created and they've been used throughout the program, they can be changed, and then when saved, all of history changes along with that code change. So sometimes codes need to be changed for inventory, customers, and vendors. For inventory, maybe we chose a part number that doesn't make a lot of sense, we want to change it, or a customer has changed their name and your code is related to their name, and same as vendor. So under each of those 3 modules at the top, we have a code change section. So customer code change, if we pick an old customer and then we pick a new customer code, so we call this one ALS or ASL TRY, and then we can maybe pick another customer, and we're going to call this, change this one from the old code to ABOX, like that. And then if we save this for later, then we can apply all that, because it can take some time to go through all of history, all open orders, all of the customers themselves to actually save that. So you would typically save this and come back to it later. In this case, I don't have access to the application of it. So you may give users the ability to create these lists, and then somebody has to approve them and actually apply them after the fact. So I'll just save and close that. And if we go under the edit user settings, and I choose myself, and I go under the customers and code change, so I add that to it and save that, and now I go back to it, code change, and now I can apply these. And if I hit the apply, It goes through all of open orders, all of history, all the customers, everywhere a customer exists in the system, pricing, everything, and changes it all to as if it was that way the whole time. And we do the same thing under customers, inventory, and vendors. Inventory adjustments and transfers can be done in a group or a batch instead of one item at a time. Therefore, you add several items to a transfer or receiving and then post it, and they are sent as a group. Therefore, you can look back at a past transfer and drill down to see what all was transferred at the same time. When the items are saved before the posting, it actually puts them into transit so the user can see what's on its way to the warehouse and what is about to leave the warehouse. Inventory adjustments and transfers can be accessed a couple different ways. So under the inventory on the main menu, we go to adjustments, and we've got a couple of saved ones here, which means these ones have not yet been posted. We've got an adjustment saved and a transfer saved. So this adjustment's got a few items on here, and when we hit the post button is when they actually get posted to the ledgers, but we can have it in transit this way so they're showed as being committed by having them on an adjustment like this. Or if we go to this transfer, the from warehouse, we can't post this when we choose a different warehouse, but we choose the Toronto warehouse here. So from Vancouver to Toronto. In this case, what's going to happen is that when this gets saved, whatever quantities are on this, in this case we don't have any quantities, but these quantities will be committed in the from warehouse, the source warehouse, and be on order in the destination warehouse if we just hit the save and close button. But if we actually go ahead and post this, then what happens is that whole transfer happens together. So let's go ahead and do that, and we can print off a report if we wish. That one's now gone from the list because it's actually been fully transferred. But if we look at our purchase history, and we look at the top here, and we open up this particular one, we'll see that each transaction has a from and to transactions. So two out, two in, two out, two in, three out, three in. So together we see all these transactions. So instead of having individual transactions that weren't related at all, they're all stored under transfer number 2 in this case. Or if it was adjustment, it would start with an A for an adjustment number. The other way a transfer adjustment can happen is you can go into the inventory list, either set yourself a filter or select some items. If you're going to do a transfer, they have to all come from the same warehouse. So we'll choose these VA warehouse here, and we click the down arrow. We can choose adjust or transfer, and all the items get automatically put onto here, and we just have to simply go in and put in all the quantities, and again, just go ahead and post that transfer or adjustment. Inventory landed costs allows a percentage to be added to each item, so the cost can be allocated to those items on a purchase order, either by weight, quantity, or value. So therefore, a landed freight or duty can be added to a purchase order. It will disperse it across the PO by one of those allocations, and then it can also be saved to the inventory item so that next time a purchase order is created, that percentage will be brought in to that purchase order. Okay, so landed cost module can happen from within the purchase order, or you can set the items for landed cost in each individual item. So if you do it from the purchase order, so if we go receive all, then it opens up the landed section. So down here for the freight, so we have $1,000 in freight. It'll pop up and ask whether you want to distribute that by quantity, by weight, or by cost. If you do it by weight, you should make sure that all of your weights are on your inventory items. Otherwise, it's not going to equally distribute it properly. But if I choose cost, it puts it basically on the most expensive items first. Now these are all similar items, so they're falling across here. So it puts 3.38%. So if I go in here now and I put in $500 in duty, and I can go here and put it on cost, and it puts in the duty as well. Now I can still tweak these. So if I put in 2% here across the board and change that, and on the freight if I change this to something else as well. Now, under company settings, if I've got save landed cost on purchase orders turned on, when I receive this purchase order, this freight and duty percentages will get saved to the inventory item. So if I go into inventory, each item has a freight and duty percentage here, and that'll get saved there. So next time I create a purchase order for that same item again, I won't have to enter that in manually. Lot tracking gives ability to track lots right all the way from the purchasing to production to sales, including raw material purchases that go into production to produce a finished product that now get assigned a lot number. So the user can track all that and do an analysis on all those items as to where they came from, who purchased them, and what we've got left. So lot control items start from inventory. If I've got an item, I choose lot numbered, and I choose how it's going to be consumed. So you can consume it by choice. So you choose every lot number as you receive and sell it, or as you sell it. Choose it by its date received, so oldest to newest, or alphanumeric lot number, or consumed by the expiration or best before date. So I'll leave it by choice for now. And then I just save the item, and then of course we'll need to purchase some of those items to start with. So let's go into our purchases and add in a PO. We'll pick a vendor, food ingredients company, and type in our item that we're going to order. So we'll order 1,000 units, and we're going to issue that purchase order. I won't print it. So this is for Forfu, and we should be able to see that PO at the top. Oldest one, or newest one. So now I'm going to receive these items. So I go receiving, receive all. So the lot number pops up for those 1,000 units. So I can type in a lot number for them, and I can put in how many I've received. So say 500. What I didn't show on the inventory, you can set the number of days for expiration. So I can put in a date, and then I got put in the rest of my lot number. So another lot, and another say 400. Same expiration, and our final lot of 100. And let's put in 02022018, and then we save those. Okay, so we've received those. There's the 3 lot numbers we received. Click the receive button. We'll create the vendor's invoice, put an invoice number in, and close the PO. Okay, so now those are now received into stock, and we can either use those up in production or sell them. So if we go into sales and we sell some of that to a customer, then we sell 100 units. It'll pop up all of our available lot numbers that we've got for this item, and we can either sort these by whichever expiration date, so make sure we get the oldest first. And I consume some of these, and maybe I'm only taking 50 of that particular lot number, and 50 of that, or say 25 of this lot number, and the final 25 from this lot number. I click OK. Those lot numbers get put on the order. I invoice those to the customer. Now I'll just print the invoice in this case so we can see their lot numbers printed on the order, on the invoice. So there's the 3 lot numbers that we chose. And then if we look back at that inventory item, we'll see on the lot number tab each of the lot numbers that we've purchased and consumed. So on that first one here, we have 1,475 of them left. We've received 2,500 to start with. 1,000 got used up in production for building another product, and we also sold 25 of them to a customer today. So just that last order we just did, that last invoice we just did. So there's the invoice number it went out on. So this is we can fully track all of each of the lot numbers, exactly where we stand with them, shows who got them, what raw material it went into, or what finished product it went into to make it, and also what's left over, so that if we have a recall, we can easily track the disposition of this particular item. A customer mail merge, users can print or email merge documents to selected group of customers from the customer module. By highlighting those customers and selecting the merge, it'll open up Microsoft Word and allow you to mail merge to all the data within the customer list, within the customer database. So customer mail merge or email merge, I can go on my customer list, and in this case I'll do an email. So I'll choose customer email, and this is just all my customers with year-to-date sales greater than 0, and email address is not blank. So I can just do Alt-A, select all. Maybe I want to skip somebody in the middle here. I can not email them. And then I click on my mail merge button, and the last document that I worked on will show up, or I can just browse for another one or create a new document. So I'll just choose the last one we did, and I'll hit edit. And what happens is I get this newsletter that came up, and I can fill in the body content of this. I can even add another merge field, for instance. So I go insert, and I can add in, say, the email address, and I'll just put the email like that. And once I got all the content laid out here, I can just preview this, and I can see who it's all going to. Go next, next, next. So there's all the customers I'm about to email to or print. I hit finish and merge. If I want to print them, I just simply print here, or I can go send email messages. And then I can choose who it's going to. So again, I'll pick my email address for my customer, either my main one or one of my contacts, and then put in here newsletter or whatever I want the subject to be, and either HTML, which is the best, or plain text, or attachment. Of course, if you use plain text, it's going to lose all the formatting. Attachment will put it in as a Word document, but HTML will embed it into the email itself. I simply click OK, and it'll email merge that all out and send them out through the user's default Outlook account. If you use pre-authorized debit, so you take customers or money from your customers' accounts, the pre-authorized debits can be exported and submitted to the bank, significantly improving the collection process. Just the way pre-authorized debit works, so you can upload a file to your bank for drawing funds from your customers' accounts, is that, first of all, the customer has to be set up, or at least the invoices have to have terms on them of PAD. So in this particular customer, we see that this invoice had a PAD on it. So if we export this customer out, just this particular invoice will get paid via EFT or PAD. If we add a new entry, because we've got this customer now set for terms of PAD, it does it automatically. So we put an amount in there, and we post it and save it. And then in company settings, you have to have your banking information set up, plus the customer themselves. If we do an open customer inside here, you do need to set up under their billing section, their transit number, their institution number, and their bank account. That must be in there before you can use this for this customer. So then all we need to do at that point is from the AR list, we simply hit the export PAD. We give it a date for when we're going to draw the funds out of the account. Now, you want to do them all on the same date, obviously. You only get to do one date, but the reason you want them all on one day is because you pay per transaction it hits. So you want to make sure, or at least the EFT file that goes in. So we're going to do them all defaulting to today's date, or you can advance them to whenever it's supposed to be, so the end of the week. Export that out, and then just basically save that file to somewhere on your computer. You now upload that file to the bank, and you just need to make sure that your bank is set up to accept CPA 1464 files, or otherwise known as 005 files, which is the most common type of format, and most banks do take it. The customer history inside the sales order. The customer's history can be viewed from within a sales order. Sales history is quickly filtered for the items already on the order and showing the quantity and the price of prior sales. And from that list, the user can actually select items from history and bring them into this new order too. So inside the sales order, we give you really easy access to seeing the customer history and what they paid for products in the past. So I got a sales order started here. I got several items on it. All I do is press the F7 key, and it brings up the customer history. Pressing the F7 again toggles it off. Now I can also get there by clicking on the sales history tab at the top. So the F7 is just a shortcut to get to sales history. So what we're seeing here is every item the customer has ever purchased from us. Now you can set a filter on this to do a shorter date range, but this is everything they've ever purchased, so I can check all the prices here. Now what I can also do while I'm in here is click on the order items only, and then it only shows the items that are actually on this order. So we've got 7 or 8 items on here now, and if we press the F7, we're seeing just the pricing of those items, so we can see what they paid. So if a customer says, for instance, on this first item, this kettlebell 40, we're charging $95, and he's saying, well, I'm sure I paid less than that last time. I can press the F7 key, go to the part number, find the kettlebell 40, right here. Oh, that's the weight, kettlebell 40. So they paid $85 a couple of times and $76. So indeed, we have charged them less. So very easy, very simple to find with just one click away to see all the customer's history. So once a desired margin for a product code is established, the margin will turn red on each line of the sales order that falls below that desired margin. And the user can then change the price. This is especially helpful as currency rates go up or down and the prices are falling below what our expected margins are. They can be corrected before they get too bad. So it's very easy to see visually if we're selling an item below the accepted margin for that product group. So if I go to this item here and I change the price to say $55, it pops up a warning right away that says price too low, current margin 15%, required margin is 30%. And once I've approved that, I'll see that the margin in the background has turned color. So that way, if our costs start to creep up on us, we can see sooner than later that we should be raising prices on certain items. Barcode scanning capability allows us to scan items into a sales order and into a purchase order with a barcode to improve accuracy and efficiency. Okay, to scan items quickly onto a sales order or purchase order, we have a button on here on a sales order called Scan Items. You can either click that button to bring up this screen, or you can hit Control Spacebar as a shortcut to bring it up as well. So when you start scanning items onto here, if I scan an item, there's a barcode. There we are. So it adds the item to it. And if I scan another item, it adds it. And if I scan another item, the same item again, it just increases the quantity of it. So that ABMAT's getting to 3, to 4, to 5, and so on. So any item I scan gets added to the order or increased it. Same thing happens on a purchase order. So if we close that, move over to our purchase order here, and if I scan items here, and we've already got some items on there, so I scan the ABMAT, went from 5 to 6 to 7, so on. So as I scan the items, they get added to the order quickly and easily. The price matrix has something called cumulative discounts. It can be offered based on minimum quantity of items purchased over multiple items matching a certain criteria. So if an item comes in a couple of different sizes and the user buys 6 of an item, they get a special price or discount. Then after they've put the first line of the order on, with say 3 of that item on the order, and then add 3 more of the same grouping of products, then the discount will be given to both line items on the sales order. The price matrix has the capability of doing cumulative discounts across multiple part numbers or items. So in the price matrix here, I've got these items here set up, these INS DB15s, 30s, 10s, and so on. So if I go inside the item, you'll see that I've got a reason code here, and I create it on the fly by going look up and just adding it. And then if I edit that reason, you see I've got a tick mark on it called cumulative. And I've also set a color, background color for it so it stands out on my sales order. So now what cumulative means is that if I do a quantity break on this, so quantity of 6 to get a discount of 10%, in other words here, I can for every item that's got that same reason of weight or whatever you decide it's called, flyer special or whatever you want to call it, they accumulate together and they give the discount across all the items. So I've done that for several of my items, set the same reason code on it with that cumulative tag on it. And then on a sales order, if I start putting those items on, so I'll put INS DB 10s on here to start with, and I'll put 2 of them. So just at regular price. Then I'll put the INS DB 15s. So the 15s, and I'll put 2 of those on, still at regular price. And I'll put the 30s on, so INS DB 30. So I got 1. As soon as I change this to 2, note the discount there. So it discounted all 3 lines by 10% once the cumulative amount got to 6, quantity 6. Labels, including barcodes, are easily created for inventory lists and from purchase orders upon receiving. There's 2 different ways you can print labels for inventory. So from the inventory list, you can choose the items that you want to print labels for. So you can highlight any number of items and then hit the labels button, and it'll bring over the quantities on hand for those products. And you can change these to set quantity 1 and back to set quantity on hand. And if I clear those, I can also do that my own quantities here. So if I want 2 of these and 3 of these, 1 of these, and 5 of these, then I can do that as well. And then at the bottom here, I can choose number of blank labels it prints. So if I put 4, if I've used a sheet of labels and I've used the first 4 on the sheet, then it'll skip those ones. So now if I hit the print button, and I got a couple different kinds of labels I've got here, and there's my labels, the same quantities that I chose on there, and then the other style label without a barcode. Now you can create any number of reports for labels, including sheets or rolls of labels. Now the other way of printing a label is from a purchase order. So I've got a PO here, and I've got the received quantity that I've received here on it. And if I just hit the labels button, it passes those quantities of each one of them onto here, and I can just hit the print button. And if I again choose preview, then I get the correct number of labels for each one of those items, any number of those items. So there's several sheets of labels here, and then these labels can be put on the products as they get put onto the shelf as I receive them. Permissions can be set for sales reps or territories to see only the sales orders, the sales history from their own customers and customer lists within a specific territory or salesperson code. Therefore, when a user logs in, has those restrictions added, they only see their own sales history, and their own customers. Okay, the salesperson restriction feature or territory restriction can be set up under users. So if I go to user settings and I choose myself here, and I go down to say salesperson, and you can do this from salesperson or from territory, and I'll just change my default sales to John and restrict my access to just John. So now I've been set up default salesperson and restricted user salesperson. So I save that, close it. So now if I go into my customer list, I'm only seeing a very short list of customers, and every one of these has a salesperson on it of John. So I click on order defaults. There's John set up as the salesperson. Okay, so now that's just a short list of customers. If I go into sales, I'm also seeing just a short list of sales, and every one of these has John as a salesperson on the order. So I open up this, click OK. See, John is on here as a salesperson. So he's restricted only to his own sales orders. And lastly, if we go into sales history, there's only the sales history for the orders that had John as the salesperson on there. So this is helpful for shortening up a list or just not allowing a salesperson to see other information besides their own. Sales order detailed job headers can be added to group sections of a sales order that can be better organized and be subtotaled with each of those sections. Especially useful for people in the service industry So it subtotals each type of service that's been done on a particular piece of equipment, or for people who deliver product that are maybe delivering to different rooms in a house or rooms in a building, that they can be grouped by those headers. And job headers are a way of grouping items together on a sales order. So I've got one job header at the top here, and I've got 4 items that are in that group. So if I add another one, so add job header, and then I type in another area. So put in an aerobic area like that. Then I can put in other items. So if I want to put on some items on this order, so let's go with the kit here, and we're going to take one of these, 3 of these, 3 of these, and click OK. And then it groups it like that. So now I've got this bolded section, and that way when we're delivering this equipment, we know where to put it, in which room to put it into in this case. Or it can be a job header that on a work order that you're doing a repair on different areas of, say, a truck or something where it's a front end work and the engine work. You can group it, and then on a work order it'll actually subtotal each section here too. But in this case, if I just print my work order or my order confirmation, what it does is it just puts that header, so that way we know where we're delivering this product to. Deposit orders are easily done by clicking on a deposit, taking the money from the customer, and that order now gets marked paid partially, and from the sales order list, the outstanding amounts and percentages paid and amounts paid are very easily found. So it's very easy to take and track deposits on sales orders in Spire. So I have an open order here, and it looks like this order's value is only $100, but to get true value of it, we can click on totals by order quantity, so that way our back order quantities get figured into the calculation. So it's a $1,700 order here. So now we're going to take a deposit on this order. So we click on the deposits button, ask us for a payment method. We'll choose American Express, and we'll take a $500 deposit and save that. And we can print the report for it. And it just prints a work order or sales order, and down the bottom shows the deposit amount on it. And later on, if we want to add to that deposit, so let's just sort by order here. Top. And there's the order here. And we want to add another deposit. So it shows a previous deposit on here. We'll just add a new one, and we'll take MasterCard for another $150. And we save that deposit. And if we preview it again, we give them a new payment method receipt. It shows the previous payment and the current payment and then the balance due on it. So then, once we've been taking all these deposit orders, we want to be able to review what we've got on deposit. And I've created a filter here called deposit orders. So what it does is it just says the status is deposit, and I've shortened up the fields being shown, just the ones pertaining to what the information I want to see about the deposit. So I've got a total of the order. I've got a subtotal, total order quantity, which is important because that's based on calculating all the back orders into it. So this order here, for instance, has almost everything back ordered on it. So it's a small amount. So now we can see also how much is paid on it, how much is remaining, and what percentage of it is now paid. User selectable kit components can be turned on within the program so that components for a kitted item can be specified. When that kit is added to an order, the system will prompt to ask which of the items should be included on the order, and those items selected will be exploded onto the order as if the user had keyed them there individually. This is especially useful for people that use or sell products maybe in different sizes and colors, so that all the available colors and sizes show up, and the user can select which one of them or which ones of them and the quantities customer purchases. In company settings, we can turn on what's called user selectable kit components. So then when I sell a kit, instead of silently building in the background, it gives it to me on a list. So if I choose this kit here, you see I've brought up a list of all my available sizes of weights of these kettlebells. And I can use this as an order form. So they want 2 of these and 4 of these, 1 of these, 3, none of those, 2 of those, or none of those, and 1 of those. Can I click OK? And it populates the order, including the ones that may be on back order, with everything that I chose off that list. So this is useful for anything that comes in different sizes or colors or a package that you want to be able to sell as a group. Automated recurring orders. So sales orders can be set to repeat at a specified intervals based on location and date. So the user can then set a monthly, weekly, daily, yearly order or customize it and within those cycles to virtually repeat an order at any given time. And then when it gets invoiced, it gets incremented to the next invoice date so the user knows which ones and when to invoice again. Okay, recurring orders or standing orders can be automated somewhat. So if you're going to create a new order, and let's expand it off, and we'll go Jackson, and they're going to buy on a monthly basis. They're going to buy a package of kettlebells here, so 2 of each of these. Click OK. So now we want to make sure we set this as standing order, and we want to repeat this monthly. And our first invoice date is going to be today, and then we just go ahead and invoice it. And we just send them off an invoice. Okay, so now it becomes one of our standing orders, and we've got a filter set, so I can choose a filter called standing order. So there's all my standing, and I can sort this by invoice date. So that's the next date we need to invoice these. So we've got, say, these 4 invoices that are due for invoicing again. So we say the week's worth or whatever it happens to be. I can just highlight them all, press the invoice button from the list, about to invoice 5 orders. And what it does is it brings up the invoice screen. We can now email those invoices if we wish, so I'll just preview them first here. So there's the first invoice, the second invoice, so on. So each one of those invoices. Okay, and you'll notice that the dates now got advanced to the next cycle. So that way I can always keep this, and I can even add another filter here that says the invoice date is this month or this week or whatever too, so I only see those ones. And then as far as the cycles are concerned, let's just go into one of these. We can choose from the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, so the standard ones. We can also choose custom. So we choose custom, and then we choose one of those cycles as well. So if it's weekly, we can say on Mondays and Thursdays, or if we choose monthly, we can say for the the 1st, the 9th, the 17th, and the 25th. If we choose yearly, we can say January, March, November, and December. So very easy to pick whatever cycle is required. A common one would be daily and every 28 days. So a 28-day rental cycle can be chosen there. And then you can also choose when it ends. So on a particular date or after so many repeat times. So it's very flexible for doing recurring orders. Sortable detail lines. So if activated at a user level, a line number column in the details section shows up how many items are entered on that order, and then the user can sort by each one of those lines within the order to either sort by part number, description, location in a warehouse, or product code, or price, or whatever is desired. And then to sort back on the line number column to get it back to normal natural order. Okay, to be able to sort detail lines within a sales order, so we look at a sales order normally, we can't sort on any of these columns. Okay, so to turn that on a user basis, we go under Edit, User Settings, and we choose Sales Orders, and then we choose Order Detail Sorting. Turn that on and save it. Now go into an order, and we see we've got a new column here, which is line number. So we know, first of all, how many lines are on order, which is also handy, but now we can sort on any one of these columns. So if we're use our location in a warehouse, we can sort by that. So if our packing slip prints by location, the sales order is in the same way. Or I can sort it by product code or description or quantity or cost, whatever column you want can be sorted anywhere in here. And then to get it back to normal or natural order, because it will by default print in normal order, which is by the line number, unless the The report itself has been customized to print by any other sort. Okay, now into the technology, a data conversion. Virtually all of Business Vision's data is migrated into Spire with a single click by pointing to the existing Business Vision database. To convert a Business Vision database to Spire, you can go to your server and click on the tray icons to find the Spire server and hit the plus button and go existing, add existing company, browse to wherever your Business Vision data is stored on the server and click on the bbcon.fil file. Give this a unique database name, and then you can set your snapshots for how often you want to create a snapshot of the data that you can take to back up and how many you want to keep and the time. And then I click OK, and then it goes through and migrates the records from the pervasive data that Business Vision uses to the Postgres or database that Spire uses, and then cleans it up and puts it into a new format with different database names, obviously, and different field names. And then once it's complete, you can then log in from your workstation with using your same username and password that you used in Business Vision, and it keeps intact all the security that you had there as well. Spire uses Postgres SQL for a more modern and faster database than Business Vision's pervasive. Spire has a comprehensive API or application program interface which allows third-party developers to easily read and write data to Spire. Therefore, when data is pushed into Spire from a third-party developer's program, the business rules apply and users do not have to worry about how the data is posted into Spire. Scalability, users don't have to be added in groups of 5 or 10. They can be done one at a time. There's no change in technology as a company grows from one user to an unlimited number of users. Security and backup. Data in Spire is much more secure than in Business Vision as it resides in a password-protected database. Backups or snapshots can be done when users are logged in. And then, of course, that snapshot needs to be removed off-site onto a secure device so that it's protected from problems on the server or within the building. If your computer hangs, crashes, or your network hangs or crashes, or something goes wrong, and while you're posting a transaction, a portion of the data will never post to the database. If everything is not posted correctly, Spire will roll back that posting so that your data is not subjected to a partial posting to only some of the data. So if after seeing all these features and advantages that Spire can give you, if you're ready to upgrade to Spire now, contact your Spire partner and they can arrange to do a trial conversion of your Business Vision data. And if you don't have somebody you're working with now, please contact us at sales@spiresystems.com or call us at 1-844-556-6789 and we'll be happy to set you up with one of our valued partners.